So this is the hook in the hole, as they say in UBD. More veteran teachers like myself might call it the anticipatory set or the motivating activity, the introduction. Anticipatory set, you're setting them up. You're letting them know what to anticipate moving forward. It's kind of like driving a car. You got better directions when you know where it is that you're going, where you can there are milestones set ahead. So I know in Pittsburgh or Western Pennsylvania, we don't know street names all that well, but we can still give people landmarks. There's the old lady at the corner. Turn right at that street. Then there's Permane Brothers, turn left there. So we're able to do that. So you want to give them that kind of that roadmap to where you're going. So this is about how you're going to motivate the kids, how you're going to get them engaged, and you're going to do that through a learning plan that is very cohesive and that's tight. How are you going to pique their interest? How are you going to get as many students involved as possible? You're not always going to get all of them, all 25 or 30 of them, motivated and ready to go with each lesson. But how can you, corral the vast majority of them to want to learn about whatever it is that you're teaching? And again, to that end, consider their prior knowledge. What do they know? What don't they know? There's space in where you can motivate the students if you have an idea of what it is that they don't know. There's a way to engage them to say, okay, you guys don't know this, you don't know that. All right, so then what does that mean? What does that look like? And then inform them of the objectives, goals, standards, and purpose. Most principals and schools are going to require that objectives are on the board or standards are on the board. Don't just write them up there. Point to them, read them, have the students read them, have them ask them what it is that they think that particular standard means and what it is that they might be doing as the class moves forward to meet the standard. How might they meet the standard? Those are all things that you can do at the beginning of the class to set clear expectations, but also to grab their attention. So there are a number of ways to do it, but you have to explicitly do it. This is a very, very underrated piece of instruction that a lot of folks put to the side, but when you do it and you do it right, it can really set your lesson up and set your unit up to be successful. So here are some examples of that. You can ask a provocative question. Ask something that's kind of controversial. You don't want to have something that's going to, get you called into the principal's office and lose your job. But ask something controversial. Maybe you take something that's going on in the news today. Should NFL players kneel down during the national anthem to protest police brutality? That's a little provocative right there. So you can ask something like that. Politics can always provide something provocative, or something provocative from a book. Holden Caulfield and Catcher in the Rye. It's a book about suicide. Should we be teaching that in schools? Whatever it is. You can do brainstorm activities. I did this when I would teach unit on Africa. I would write the word Africa on the board, and I would have my students tell me what it is that they knew. And they would come up with all these different names, names and things and whatnot. Some of them were accurate, some of them weren't. Some of them were rooted in fact. Some of them were just, stereotypes. But that told me where they were, and then I was able to kind of work through that and set them up for what we were going to do. I know the text talks about a KWL chart, but I want to introduce you guys to a what we know and what we want to know chart. And it's really that simple. You set that up on the board, or you give them a piece of paper. They do a think, peer, share. All right, this is what we know about this particular thing. So this is what we know about DNA replication. But here's what we want to know about it. And you set those up. You could do it on big butcher paper around the class, or you could just do it on small paper, put it on the whiteboard, however you want to do that, and then go back to it. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see there's moral dilemmas. I think those can be very engaging to students to kind of, if they're to talk about perspective. You can give them some sort of odd fact that they know that might pique their interest. They could do a role play to kind of get them started for whatever's going to happen for the rest of the unit. They could do some personal. You can share a personal experience, or have the students share a personal experience. Do you have a time when you were younger when you made a mistake? And then maybe that's part of the book that you guys are going to read. Or you could use humor. Maybe in a Spanish class, you might talk about, one time when you said the wrong thing. You meant to say this, but you said that. Some funny story to get them engaged with some particular aspect that they're going to be learning about. So we're going to now move on to the E. So here with the E, you want to talk about experiences, equipping students, exploring things, enabling, empowering students so that they know how to meet the performance goals. They have the right knowledge and tools to do so. This is very important that you're able to do this, and it's a lot of E's, and I'm going to be using E's throughout this video. But so, you must understand or have knowledge of what their prior experiences are. What have they done before they've come to your classroom? Have they done any labs before? And in order for them to be successful in labs in your classroom, what do you have to teach them? Have they done any public speaking before? Have they learned anything about Spanish or grammar or what have you? And then you got to give them different experiences to reflect on what it is that what they know how to do and what they learn how to do. So you want to make sure that what you're doing are clear tasks, that they're transferable, that they're linked to standards. Those things are all important. Are you teaching students to equip and enable them so that they can perform with an understanding of whatever it is that you're doing? So is it aligned? So all those things are very important. And lastly, you want to do some scaffolding. And a good way to do that is through the I do, we do, you do methodology. So first you as the teacher do it and you present and show them how to do it. Then we do it together as a class. I think I said that right. I do, we do, you do. Then you do it together as a class. And then after that, you get the students to do it on their own, individually, or with a group. It's gradual release of responsibility. And hopefully their meaning making has transferred from you in the beginning with the I do to the you do at the end, where in the middle there was the we do. A lot of do's there, ladies and gentlemen. But I did not say do until I just said it. Moving on. Anyway, so scaffolding might include a graphic organizer, a think aloud, some self-assessments. And this kind of, what I have here sets that up. If you're going to talk about a debate, you want to establish, all right, well, what do students have to know? Well, they're going to have to know the debate rules. They're going to have to know the procedures. So now they know that. So what will they have to be able to do? State a position, use rebuttal techniques. And then what, as the teacher, am I going to have to, what will they have to learn? They're going to have to learn the rules, and I'll have to review that. Maybe they watch a video to model exactly what a debate looks like. So that's important that we do. I want to go back real quick to this before I move on. But as secondary teachers, oftentimes we can get caught up in teaching content. And when I was the principal, I was the principal of a K-8 building. And a kindergarten teacher, told me something one day that kind of, was very transformative to me. She said that there's a difference between elementary and secondary teachers. Secondary teachers teach content to kids. Elementary teachers teach kids the content, and there's a difference. We tend to teach content. Elementary teachers teach kids, so they're about equipping their kids to be able to do things. We're typically about stuffing their heads with different content and knowledge. That was transformative to me as a secondary teacher to think about, okay, how do I equip them to teach them how to do things, and just teaching them the what to do, or not the what, but the what, the information. So you also need to think of the E as being explicit, which you have to explicitly teach the students. Don't assume that they already have that particular skill or set of knowledge. You might need to explicitly teach them how to work in a group and to collaborate. That's very important that you guys make sure you add that E on, which is explicit. So the R is about revision, rethinking, revise, reflecting. Again, I mentioned that earlier before, learning by mistake, those recurring, now we get into the R's, those big ideas and essential questions. Give them journals and think logs to reflect, metacognitive prompts, get them to think about their thinking. iSearch papers, which is something that you can look up when you have some time to. Other possibilities, as you talk about reflecting, have the students shift their perspective and reconsider key assumptions. Have them take the role of somebody. I mean, that's always important. That's a good way to talk about shifting their position. Take the opposite position of something. So have them argue the exact opposite of what they believe. Rethink a naive idea that you can fill in the blank. Have them conduct some research. All those ways are for having students to reflect and to rethink things. Possible revision include drafting and editing sessions. That's so key. English teachers, make sure you're doing that. Peer critiques are important. I know my performing arts folks know the importance of rehearsals. You could also do peer response groups. You can have peers assess what those other groups, actors and actresses, have done in a scene. People can have practice sessions, and then you can also do self-assessments. How well do I think I speak Spanish in this conversation? You can have them do self-assessments. So that can be very important as well. Now we get to the other E in terms of evaluation, self-evaluation. Can students be metacognitive? Can they think about their thinking and how it is that they learn? Can they consider their own strengths and weaknesses? Have them do journals. I know a lot of ELA teachers do that. And the next one, what we know, what we want to know. A good thing that you can do to do the evaluation, have them do an exit ticket as they walk out of class. Tell me, write down 3 things that you learned today. Then you use those exit tickets to shape what your learning strategies and your teaching is going to be for the next day. Have the students evaluate their own work with the rubric that you've created or that you guys have created as a class. Or students describe the strategies that they use to arrive at their performance. So what did they do? Can they explain how it is that they did what they did? And this is something that has set the world afire in Common Core and mathematics that people were losing their minds about. But instructionally, it makes a lot of sense because it's really about students internalizing what they know. And the T, can you tailor and personalize learning? Is this something that is differentiated to students in their particular knowledge, to their particular learning style? You can do this based on their prior knowledge, or to that end, you can use diagnostic assessments, formative assessments, other pieces of data, as I talked about with the exit slips, or you can do entrance slips to find out as they walk in what it is that they know. So you want to gather data here so that you can figure out what each individual students or the students as a whole know. So maybe one class is further ahead of the other class, but you know that based on data. What different ways do students learn, and what are their learning preferences? Visual, audio, kinesthetic learners. You need to know that, and there are some assessment tools that you can use to figure that out. And then what are multiple intelligences? You guys are going to be watching a video from Howard Gardner. I believe strongly in multiple intelligences, and I think these are things that you can weave into your instructional practices to really maximize student learning. And then also provide choice in assessments or evaluation. I know as a social studies teacher, I know not all of my students necessarily did well with tests. Not all of them wrote. So in some instances, I might give them an option. Okay, for this, you can write an essay. That might be your how it is that you express this. You could write an essay, you could give a speech, you could draw a picture, and you provide students with those different ways to display what it is that they know. Not everybody's able to write, not everybody's able to draw. You want to provide them different opportunities. Are they still communicating to you that they have an understanding of what it is that you set out for them to understand? So it all doesn't have to look the same way. Can you differentiate your instruction? Can you differentiate the way in which you assess students? That's important because it also empowers them. It makes them think that they really have a say in how it is that they learn. And it also lets them know that you've paid attention to how they learn and what they're good at. That type of stuff is key to creating a positive learning environment that I talked about in the beginning of this particular video. And then lastly, the O, is your stuff organized? This is what I talked about before. Is it aligned? Does everything connect together? Is there a sequence to the teaching that maximizes student learning? Does all of that stuff fit together? That's all very important. Is there learning? Is there doing? Is there reflecting? All that needs to go together, ladies and gentlemen. And so lastly, here are some critique questions. What activities will lead to achievement of the desired results? How are you going to monitor the progress? I talked about alignment. You need to make sure that things are sequenced and differentiated to maximize student learning. And then also gradual release of responsibility. That's key and important. I'm going to sign off here, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out the other videos for this week. And I hope you guys have a good week.